2 days before our engagement party, my fiancé was kneeling to adjust the hem of my dress when his fingers gently brushed against my ankle. "Serena," he said, "how come I've never seen you wear high heels? You have such beautiful feet." I was adjusting the waistline of my gown in the mirror. "I'm not used to them," I replied casually. "They hurt when I walk." "You should try. They'd look perfect with your mermaid dress." His palm traveled up my leg, stopping at the back of my knee. "Red, soled stilettos. They'd flash in and out of sight when you walk. So elegant. You'd look absolutely stunning in them." I looked up and met his focused, eager eyes in the mirror. "When did you become an expert on these things?" Alex's smile froze. His gaze quickly shifted away from me. I was flipping through a fashion magazine and saw them. I said nothing. He leaned closer, his fingers gently cupping my chin. "What? You don't believe me?" His touch was warm, but his eyes flickered for a moment. "Of course I do," I smiled, tapping his chest with my fingertip. "I just never thought Alex, the great lawyer, would be studying this." He leaned down and kissed my forehead. "For you, I'd learn anything. I'll go get you a glass of water." He turned and left the room, forgetting his phone. I hesitated for a moment, then entered his passcode and unlocked it. It was the first time in all these years I had ever checked his phone. The passcode was still my birthday. It hadn't changed. The chat logs, photo gallery, and call history were all clean. I breathed a sigh of relief, laughing at my own suspicion. But as my finger hovered over the search bar, on a whim, I typed in, "red, soled high heels." The search brought up a strange account. The profile picture was blank, and the username was a simple star. He had blocked it, so I couldn't re-add it. I quietly memorized the user ID and searched for it on my backup account. A profile with a blurry side. Profile picture popped up. I sent a friend request. She accepted instantly. "A fan," she messaged. My heart leaped into my throat. The blood in my veins turned to ice. "Yeah, I saw you in a magazine and asked a friend for your contact info." She didn't seem to suspect anything. "Haha, thanks for the follow, sweetie. Who's the big shot? But it doesn't matter. Welcome. You know, Mr. Williams." I made up a vague name, my palm sweating. She sent back a cute emoji. "Oh, okay, that makes sense. Thanks for the love." After a brief exchange, I opened her social media feed. The most recent posts were professionally edited selfies and photos from events. The girl in the pictures had striking, vibrant features and a perfect figure. The backgrounds were mostly high-end restaurants, backstage at fashion shows, or gyms. She was probably a model. I kept scrolling down and stopped at a post from a week ago. It was a picture of her back. The pose lazy but incredibly seductive. She was on her tiptoes, revealing the red soles of her shoes. The caption read, "Thanks for the gift, Mr. C." Heart emojis. Mr. C. An invisible hand seemed to squeeze my heart, making it hard to breathe. I covered my mouth, afraid I would start sobbing. But a few broken gasps escaped my throat anyway. Everything fell into place. The luxury store receipt that had mysteriously appeared in our house last week. His frequent late nights at work. Even the night before last, when he was whispering on the phone on the balcony and immediately hung up when he saw me, claiming it was an urgent case. So that's what it was. 10 years together. And we were finally about to make it official. I didn't want to believe that the Alex who loved and cherished me would betray me. But a clear voice in my head told me. My fiancé had fallen for another woman. My hands were shaking so much I could barely hold the phone. Plink. A tear fell onto the screen. I opened his text messages. A charge for $12,800 from a women's shoe store downtown. The exact same amount as the receipt. I heard footsteps approaching from outside. I quickly locked the screen and put the phone back where it was. Been waiting long. Alex walked in with a glass of warm water. In his other hand was an orange gift box. He smiled gently. "Guess what I got you?" He opened the box. Inside was the latest. Hard to get designer handbag. An early engagement gift. Do you like it? In the past, I would have thrown my arms around him and playfully scolded him for spending too much. But now, it all felt absurd. "Yes, it's beautiful." He smiled and ruffled my hair. "I'll get you another gift when we get married. Something even better and more beautiful." You can start looking forward to it now. I stared at him, a bitter ache in my heart. It would be so wonderful if none of this were real. The next day, I stood in the shoe store's security room, my nails digging into my palms. On the screen, Alex had his arm around the girl's waist, leaning in to listen as she whispered in his ear. He took the high heels she had been trying on and knelt on one knee to put them on for her. A sales assistant was fawning over them. He casually took her bag and waited quietly. After they bought the shoes, she twirled on her tiptoes, her skirt flaring out. Alex reached out to steady her, his eyes filled with a passionate focus. I stared at the date on the surveillance footage. That day, I had been in the lab until dawn, rushing to meet a project deadline so I could take my wedding leave early. He had texted me saying he was working late, even sending a picture of a coffee cup from his law firm. So he had lied. A sales assistant whispered, "That gentleman is irregular. He always comes in with that young lady and spends a lot of time while she tries on shoes. Do you have this style in stock?" I heard my own voice, chillingly calm. The assistant was taken aback. "We do, but the price. I'll take them all." I paid with my card and walked out with 6 gift boxes. When I got home, Alex was in the kitchen making soup. "You're back." He came out of the kitchen. His eyes fell on the mountain of gift boxes at my feet, and his smile froze. "What's this?" His voice was strained. I calmly opened one of the boxes, took out a pair of red-soled high heels, and dangled them in front of him. "Aren't they beautiful?" The sales assistant said they're the most popular style. His face went pale. "Why did you suddenly buy so many?" "Suddenly," I smiled. "Weren't you the one who suggested I wear them?" He opened his mouth as if to say something, but in the end, he just looked down, avoiding my eyes, his fingers tracing the rim of the soup bowl. Silence filled the air. I stood up and grabbed my coat. "Something came up at the lab. I have to go. Now." He looked up sharply, his eyes frantic. "The engagement ceremony is tomorrow. There's a problem with the data," I said calmly, turning to leave. "I'll be pulling an all-nighter. Don't wait up." I turned the key, stepped on the gas, and drove to the location. Star had posted on her social media half an hour ago. There was a niche brand fashion show tonight. The lights in the venue dimmed, and the final round of applause died down. I stood in a corner, watching as Stella was surrounded by people on her way backstage. She was even more stunning in person than in her photos. Her reddish-brown curls bounced with every step, her waist so supple it seemed boneless, her almond eyes soft and alluring. After the show, I overheard some staff members whispering, "Stella seemed off today. She almost tripped on the runway. I heard she's been having relationship problems." I followed her up to the rooftop. In the night wind, she leaned against the railing, smoking, the tip of her cigarette glowing red. "Stella." I approached her, feigning nervousness. "Can I get a photo with you? I've been a fan for a long time." She glanced at me lazily, a little surprised. "A female fan." She waved me over. "Sure." After the photo, I asked, "Are you in a bad mood?" Her eyes darkened. She stubbed out her cigarette. "Whatever. I don't have a date tonight anyway. A little chat won't hurt. You know, I thought he would be here tonight. Men. They're all the same." She threw her head back, took a swig of her drink, and began to pour her heart out. "I met him after a show. He gave me a bouquet of white roses and said he was drawn to my aura. And then, she smiled suggestively. The second time we met, he took me to a private winery. When I was a little tipsy, he kissed me and said he had never met a woman as sexy as me." My heart lurched. That night, Alex had been out all night. He told me he was at the firm, preparing for a case. Not long after, he posted a picture of an engagement ring with another woman on his social media. I knew he had a fiancé. He said she was as meek as a little bunny, but she spent all her time in the lab and was incredibly boring. It was a mutual arrangement. I needed his resources to get ahead. I've met plenty of men like him, too. Faced. He invited me to his house as soon as his fiancée was away. The first time we slept together was in their marital bed. He acted so innocent afterward, saying he regretted it and that we shouldn't see each other again. But if I sent him a text, he'd still come running. And every time he came over, he was wild. Never wanted to use a condom, but he'd still go on about not wanting to wrong his fiancée. The moment I'd wrap my arms around his neck, he'd forget all about it. Lately, he's been playing the devoted man, saying he has to be responsible to his fiancé, but he can't bear to break it off with me. Huh. Oh, and he bought me these shoes. He said they make me look especially slutty. Her phone buzzed. She glanced at the message, quickly wiped her eyes, and her bright smile returned. All right, little fan. See you next time. I stood in the shadows of a corner on the rooftop and watched her fall into a familiar embrace. Alex was wearing the dark gray trench coat I had given him. A bouquet of white roses sat on the hood of his car. He looked so gentle and so unfamiliar. I raised my phone, the lens shaking slightly. He held her by the waist, kissing her with a deep, passionate longing. In that moment, my heart felt like it had been torn to shreds. The pain was so intense I had to double over. Tears streamed down my face, and my body shook uncontrollably. I bit down hard on the back of my hand, swallowing my sobs. After the excruciating pain, all that was left was exhaustion. They were long gone. I sat collapsed on the ground, staring blankly at the moon. Tomorrow was our engagement party, the day we had been looking forward to for so long. But after 10 years of love, I was only now truly seeing the man I loved. What about my parents? How would I explain this? I hated myself for being so naive, for wasting 10 years of my life. Suddenly, a notification popped up on my phone. Without hesitation, I added my name to the list. I struggled to my feet and shakily made my way out. When I opened the door to our home, the light in the entryway was still on. A sticky note was on the fridge. Urgent case at the firm. Won't be back tonight. I'll be there on time tomorrow. I promise. Love you. The words seemed to mock me with their own voices. Liar. I ripped the note off and tore it to shreds. I went into the bedroom and pulled out a thick stack of yellowed love letters. One for every day of university that he had tucked into my textbooks. The photo albums were filled with our travel pictures. Him always hugging me from behind, his chin resting on my head as he smiled foolishly. In the back of the closet hung the shirt he had worn on our first date, my initials embroidered on the cuff, and the scarf I had stayed up all night knitting. I gathered them all, threw them into the bathtub, and lit a lighter. Flames roared to life, consuming everything that held a trace of Alex and Serena. Last was our marital bed, one he had carefully chosen in my favorite color. Now, it just disgusted me. I took out a pair of scissors and cut it to pieces. Then everything else in the house that held a memory of him. I took a hammer to it. Everything I had once cherished was now a ruin. I sat in the wreckage, watching the sky slowly lighten. The sound of a key turning in the lock. Alex pushed the door open, his smiling face quickly falling. Serena, have you lost your mind? Do you know what day it is? You've destroyed our home. Hurry up and get your dress on. We can still make it. I slapped his hand away. The engagement is off. Don't be ridiculous. The guests have been notified. Our parents are already there. Crack. I threw the red, soled high heels at his feet and brought the hammer down hard on the heel. The moment the heel broke, he stumbled back, as if he'd been stabbed. What's the matter? Remembering someone? Are you remembering kneeling to put her shoes on? Or the taste of her kiss last night? Alex's face went deathly pale, his lips trembling. Serena, let me explain. Shut up. I grabbed the other high heel and threw it at his chest. He reached for my wrist, but I slapped him so hard his head snapped to the side. He clutched his face, stunned, as if he never imagined the gentle me would ever raise a hand to him. I grabbed his hair, forcing his head up, and with my other hand, I started hitting him across the mouth with the sole of the shoe. Again and again. His face swelled up, and blood trickled from the corner of his mouth. He didn't fight back, didn't struggle. He just let me, and I didn't hold back. I was like a wild animal, unleashing all my rage on him. I didn't stop until the heel broke and my wrist ached. He spat out a mouthful of blood. I grabbed a handful of ashes from the tub and threw them in his face. He was a complete mess, panting. I sat down on the sofa. Alex crawled over, blood and ash dripping from his chin, and clung to my leg. Serena. It was just a moment of weakness. His voice trembled. 10 years together. Can't you forgive me just this once? I sneered. No. I have emotional. Someone who's been dirted is not worthy. He looked at me in disbelief, his expression suddenly turning wounded. Serena. For the past 6 months, you've been living in the lab. I've been so stressed I can't sleep. I lost a case. A colleague got promoted. I was with a client at a fashion show when I met Stella. I was just drunk. He grabbed my wrist. She seduced me. It was an accident. The only one I love is you. You were too busy. I was so lonely. He suddenly choked up. For 10 years. All you've seen are your lab results. What about me? I'd come home, and there wouldn't even be a hot meal. So you got together with her. Lonely. Stressed. I laughed and shook his hand off. I took out my phone. Played the video of Alex holding Stella. Kissing her passionately. Was this last night's loneliness? I swiped to the next picture. The surveillance footage from the shoe store. Him kneeling to put on her shoes. Was this an accident? His face was ashen. His lips trembling. Serena. Don't worry. There's more. I swiped to a screenshot of her post. Thanks for the gift. Mr. C. Who's C? So hard to guess. Could it be C for Alex? I leaned in, enunciating every word. She told me herself. The first time was in this bedroom. You called me boring. And her exciting. You said you regretted it. But every time she beckoned, you crawled back to her like a dog. Was that seduction? He froze, his lips trembling. You went to see her. What else was I supposed to do? Let you keep lying? I grabbed his collar. How pathetic. Is this your love for me? Lying to my face while you continue your affair. He was shaking all over, sobbing uncontrollably. I was wrong. I was so wrong. For the sake of our 10 years together. Please. Just forgive me this once. I told you. I have an emotional. I will never want something that's been dirted. And what about you? Serena. Are you so clean? The male colleague who drove you home late last month. I slapped him again. Hard. A dirty person sees dirt everywhere. His eyes were red as he yelled. You never loved me. Otherwise, you'd give me another chance. I wiped my hands. I did love you. That's why this is so disgusting. Just as Alex was about to speak, a knock on the door interrupted him. He frantically wiped the blood from his face and staggered to his feet. Rachel strode in, still carrying the bag with her bridesmaid dress. Serena. The makeup artist has been waiting. She pushed the door open and froze. What happened? She took in the scene of devastation and stepped right over Alex's hand to get to me. What did this bastard do? Her eyes suddenly fixed on the broken high heel in my hand. The tip was stained with blood. She gasped and spun on Alex. You cheated. Alex's face went white. How did you know? It's written all over your face. Rachel whipped out her phone and started taking pictures. I'm sending this to the family group chat right now. Don't. Alex lunged for the phone. This is between me and Serena. It's none of your business. Rachel slapped him back. None of my business. When you were chasing Serena, who was it that delivered your love letters? Suddenly, there was a commotion downstairs. I pulled back the curtain. The wedding planner's cars had arrived. Both sets of our parents were looking up at the window. Alex dropped to his knees. Serena, please. Think of the big picture. Rachel grabbed a vase and poured the water over his head. The big picture. My ass. She grabbed my arm. I'll talk to your aunt and uncle. As we passed Alex, I stepped on the fingers he had planted on the floor. He howled in pain. Now, get down there and explain this to everyone. Alex went downstairs, his face bruised and swollen. His mother rushed to his side, shrieking at me. Serena, are you crazy? Do you know what day it is? How could you do this to my son? I sneered. Why don't you ask your son what he's done? Alex hung his head. Mom. His mother cut him off. What could it be? Men have to socialize. It's normal to have some fun on the side. You're making a big deal out of nothing and embarrassing our family. Fun on the side. I held up my phone and played the video. On the screen, Alex was holding Stella, kissing her passionately. The crowd gasped. She froze, then lifted her chin. So, what if a man has a female friend? You spend all day in the lab, looking miserable, with no femininity at all. I laughed. So you knew all along. What if I did? She hissed, her fingernail almost touching my nose. Your family is nothing. Marrying into our family is a blessing for you. Don't be so high and mighty. My son is young and successful. Do you know how many rich girls are lining up for him? What do you have besides your degree? You can't even keep a man. Rachel grabbed a water bottle and threw it at her. I've never seen anything like it. Your son is cheating on his fiancé right before the wedding. And you're defending him. His mother shrieked. You have no manners. My son marrying you is a gift. My own mother pulled me behind her. Mrs. Hayes, please show some respect. My daughter has a PhD. She's a key researcher at a national laboratory. Her worth is not defined by her ability to keep a man. As for your son, she turned to Alex, her voice suddenly sharp. 10 years ago, you knelt at our door and swore you would be good to Serena. It seems you lack even the most basic human integrity. This engagement, we, the Reed family, are calling it off. As for the rich girls lining up for him, I hope they see soon enough what kind of blessing your family really is. Alex's mother's face was livid. What man doesn't make mistakes? My son is young and successful. So what if he slipped up? If your daughter were more considerate, would my son have strayed? For the sake of both our families' reputations, let's just let this go. I promise Alex will never do it again. I sneered, cutting her off. 10 years ago, it was Alex who stood outside my dormitory for 3 whole months, bringing me breakfast every single day. He was the one who said he would never marry anyone but me. He was the one who waited outside my lab until dawn just to walk me home. Now your son has made a mistake. And instead of teaching him shame, you blame me for not being able to control him. You taught him to lie, to shift blame. Why didn't you teach him to be a decent human being? By 10 o'clock, I want to see a public apology from your entire family in the group chat. Otherwise, I have no problem posting everything your son has done online for the whole world to see what kind of man your young and successful lawyer really is. The engagement is off. Your entire family. You'd better stay out of my sight forever. Alex's father grabbed him and dragged him to the car. His mother wanted to say more, but my stare silenced her. She finally scurried into the wedding car in disgrace. The convoy left in shame. I stood there, watching them disappear, and finally let out a long breath. My mother hugged me, her hand gently patting my back. Just like when I was a child. Silly girl. You've been holding it in, haven't you? Her voice was soft. I should have known you were unhappy. My father's eyes were red. He put his coat over my shoulders. Let's go home. Dad will make you fish soup. My nose stung, and the tears finally fell. I'm so sorry. I embarrassed you. Don't be silly. My mother squeezed my cheek. What's face compared to my daughter's happiness? She suddenly took out her phone and started typing furiously. I'm leaving 20 family group chats first, to avoid the gossip. Rachel popped up from behind me, clapping. Auntie, uncle, you don't mind if I come for dinner, do you? I laughed through my tears and pinched her cheek. Since when did you get so polite about mooching food? My father smiled. Of course. Rachel, stay for dinner. Tell me what you want to eat. Yay. Now, let's go home. 3 days later. At the airport, Rachel waved at me from the line, pushing her luggage. Hurry up. We're about to board. Suddenly, I heard hurried footsteps behind me. Alex rushed over and grabbed my wrist. His eyes red. Serena, give me one last chance. He took out his phone in front of me and deleted all of Stella's contact information. He even played a video. In it, he was telling Stella with a cold face, "It's over." She just shrugged and walked away. "See, I'm done with her." His voice trembled. "The only one I love is you. It's always been you." I pulled my hand away. "Move." He knelt, his voice choked with emotion, and called out a nickname he hadn't used in 10 years. My little Serena. My body went rigid. That was our safe word from 10 years ago. Whenever we fought, if he said it, I had to give him a chance to explain. See, I still remember. Our promise never changed. Alex, that word has expired. With that, I picked up my suitcase and walked towards security without looking back. Half a month flew by. Rachel was asleep on my shoulder. We had spent the past 2 weeks in Iceland. We ran on the black sand beaches, screamed at the glaciers, and threw the ring Alex had given me into a volcanic lake. Rachel said the best cure for a broken heart is to see a bigger world. She was right. In the face of the world's vastness, the pain suddenly seemed so small. It turned out that without Alex, the sunrise was just as spectacular, the northern lights just as breathtaking. It turned out that letting go of someone wasn't about forgetting, but about remembering without feeling anything. The plane began its descent. The clouds parted, and the city's skyline slowly came into view. I whispered to the window, "Goodbye, Alex. This time, It was really goodbye. After returning, I immediately threw myself into my work at the lab. My colleagues tactfully avoided the subject of the engagement, simply leaving a hot cup of coffee on my desk. I buried myself in data, pulling through all-nighters, and finally discovered an abnormal fluctuation, a finding that could lead to a breakthrough for the entire project. The director personally approved my promotion to project lead. As I was leaving work, a security guard was stopping a man at the gate. I looked up and almost didn't recognize Alex. He was so thin he looked gaunt. His suit hung on him, wrinkled. There were dark circles under his eyes, and he was unshaven. He looked nothing like the elite lawyer he once was. I remembered my mom mentioning that after I left. He had lost a crucial case and been demoted. The scandal of his infidelity had spread through his professional circle, and clients were dropping him. Stella had been exposed for dating multiple sponsors at the same time, making him a laughingstock online. He saw me, and his eyes lit up. He stumbled towards me. The guard pushed him back. "If you don't leave, I'm calling the police." Alex broke free and fell to his knees. "Serena." His voice was hoarse. "I don't believe you don't love me anymore." People stopped to stare and whisper. I took a step back and said coldly to the guard, "Please handle this. I don't know him." Alex's pupils contracted. He suddenly started slapping himself, harder and harder, his cheeks quickly turning red. I was wrong. I really know I was wrong. He crawled forward on his knees and grabbed my pants leg. "Please, give me one more chance. Let's start over." Colleagues from the lab were peeking out, and my supervisor was frowning in our direction. My face burned with humiliation. Just then, my colleague, Leo, walked over with a file. I grabbed his arm. "My boyfriend is here. Please have some self-respect." Alex froze. His eyes locked on Leo. "It was you." His voice trembled. "The one who drove her home late that night." Leo was taken aback but quickly recovered, nodding slightly. "Yes." Alex staggered to his feet, shaking his head. "Impossible. You're lying to me, aren't you? Just to get back at me." Leo stepped in front of me, his tone calm. "Mr. Hayes, if you continue to harass my fiancé, I will call the police." "Fiancé?" Alex stumbled backward, his eyes vacant. No, you've only known each other for..." I laughed. "We're getting married next month. If you don't believe me, you can come to the ceremony." With that, I took Leo's arm and walked away. Behind me, I heard Alex's broken roar. "Serena, you can't have forgotten me this quickly." I hadn't forgotten him, but he was in the past. One day, he would fade with the memories. On the tree-lined path, leaves rustled. I broke the silence. "Thanks for that." Leo pushed up his glasses. "You're welcome." After a moment, he asked, "Can I ask why you two broke up?" I crushed a dry leaf under my shoe. "He fell for another woman. The details aren't important." He looked at me, his Adam's apple bobbing. "So, what are your standards for a partner now?" I was surprised and joked. "Tall, handsome, must be loyal, and preferably able to stay up all night with me doing experiments. How about me?" He suddenly stopped, his expression serious. "I meet all the criteria." "Huh. I've liked you since university. I followed you to the same mentor, the same research institute." But Alex moved too fast. Before I could work up the courage, "You two are together. Now that you're single, would you consider me?" My ears burned. I quickly stepped back. "I'm not ready." "That's okay." He smiled. "I can wait." In the following days, Leo's presence in my life suddenly became much more prominent. Breakfast would appear on my desk every morning. When I worked late, he was always there to, coincidentally, drive me home. My colleagues would elbow me. "The whole institute knows he has a crush on you. I heard that when you got engaged. He almost transferred to the overseas branch. The moment you called it off, he withdrew his application." I pretended not to hear, but every time I met his gaze, I couldn't help but look away. Until one day, Alex showed up at the institute gate again. I walked straight to Leo, who was waiting for me, and took his hand. "Want to come over for dinner?" His fingers tightened around mine. He smiled. "Okay." 6 months later, I stood on the stage at an international academic conference. The hall filled with applause. My research had been published in a top-tier journal, and our team's new material had received a national patent. The entire project group was recognized. The director patted my shoulder. Serena, you have a bright future. After the conference, Leo was waiting for me outside with a bouquet of sunflowers. Your parents asked me to remind you to come home for dinner this weekend. I teased. They're closer to you than to me now. He chuckled. Of course. I'm their hand-picked future son. In law. My ears grew warm, but I didn't object. Over the past 6 months, he had seeped into my life like water. He had been with me through the hardest times, never overstepping but always there. My mother always said on the phone, that Leo is a good kid. He's steady, and his eyes are only for you. According to Rachel, Stella had been publicly beaten by the wife of one of her sponsors. Her face and legs were ruined, and she could no longer model. As for Alex, I heard he wasn't doing well. After his demotion, he kept losing cases. Client complaints piled up, and he was eventually fired. His parents were also fighting constantly. His mother suspected his father was having an affair, and their home was a battlefield. I ran into him once at the mall. He was unshaven, his suit wrinkled, holding a cheap can of beer, his eyes empty. We passed each other without a word, and my story with Leo was just beginning. That evening, Leo walked me home, holding my hand. His shadow was long, and I played by stepping on it. He turned and smiled helplessly. Dr. Reed, how old are you? 3, I said, standing on my tiptoes to try and touch his hair. Got a problem with that? He paused, then ruffled my hair with a helpless smile. Dr. Reed, you've gotten very good at bullying me. In the sunset, his silhouette was bathed in a warm glow. I suddenly stood on my tiptoes and quickly kissed his cheek. He froze, his ears instantly turning bright red. Come on. I pulled him forward. Rachel said the food's getting cold. He laced his fingers through mine, his laughter carried away by the wind. Okay, let's go home. This time, it was really home. Epilogue. Alex stood in the airport terminal, a ringing in his ears. Serena's back disappeared through security. Her goodbye was light, but it felt like 1,000 knives carving him up. He went home in a daze. The house had been restored to its original state. New furniture, freshly painted walls. Even the curtains were the same, but it was empty. Something was missing. Suddenly, he started tearing the place apart, searching frantically through drawers, closets, under the bed, even the trash. His fingers fumbled in the dust until they finally found a corner of a burnt photograph. The girl in the picture was smiling, her eyes curved into crescents. It was Serena, from 10 years ago. His heart seized, the pain so sharp it made him double over. Alex clutched the scrap of paper, his knuckles white. An immense panic washed over him. A voice emerged, clearer and sharper than his own. Through tear-blurred eyes, he saw his 10-year younger self, standing before him in shock. Where is Serena? Weren't you supposed to be married? You lost her. How could you lose her? Alex, you promised to never leave her, to travel the world, to give her all the romance, to be happy together forever. How did you fail to keep a single promise? Alex, I hate you. I'm sorry. He curled up on the floor, a low, guttural sob escaping his throat. Regret washed over him like a tidal wave, suffocating him completely. The jarring ring of his phone cut through his breakdown. Alex stared at the word, Mom, on the screen for a few seconds before answering. Alex, how have you been? His mother's voice was concerned. Fine. His tone was flat. He didn't want her to know. Well, Mrs. Lee's daughter just came back from abroad. She's a nice girl. Do you want to meet her? Alex frowned. No. His mother's voice immediately rose. Are you still thinking about Serena? After everything she did to you? Do you know all our relatives are laughing at us now? You're 30 now. You can't be single forever. Her voice suddenly choked up. Your father hasn't been well. He's just hoping you'll settle down soon. It was always like this. The moment he went against their wishes, they would start with the guilt trips. He had felt controlled his whole life. Until university, when he switched to a major he loved. That was his first rebellion. Falling in love with Serena. Starting a long-term relationship. That was his second. A throbbing pain started in his temples. He didn't have the energy to listen anymore. He just said, fine, and quickly hung up. The next day, he was pushed into going on the date. Alex sat there, distracted, stubbornly flipping through the pictures of Serena on his phone. When the girl arrived, her smile and laughter reminded him a little of Serena. He froze, his fingers unconsciously tracing the rim of his cup. Mr. Hayes. She called his name softly. He snapped back to reality, forcing a smile. Sorry, I was spacing out. The girl seemed surprisingly pleased with him, and they exchanged contact information. When he got back to the empty house, he slapped himself hard across the face. Had he really been swayed by a mere resemblance? He was about to delete her number when his phone buzzed. A message from her. I had a great time today. Let's do it again soon. His finger hovered over the screen, unmoving. In the empty house, he felt he could no longer bear the absence of Serena. Finally, he replied, okay. They started seeing each other frequently. Movies, trendy restaurants, amusement parks. The girl was cheerful and outgoing, and she helped him forget his pain. For a little while. Sometimes, he even had the illusion that he was back in the early days of his relationship with Serena. Until one night, the girl stood on her tiptoes and leaned in to kiss him. In that instant, Alex turned his head sharply, avoiding her lips. I'm sorry. His voice was low. I'm not ready. The girl was a little embarrassed, but she still smiled. It's okay. On the way home, the cold wind sobered him up. What was he doing? Using someone as a substitute, lying to himself and to her. What was the point? He clenched his fists, his nails digging into his palms. Finally, he turned and walked in a different direction. He sat in a corner of a bar, downing drink after drink. The alcohol burned his throat, but his mind was clearer than ever. He remembered the first time Serena got drunk. Her cheeks flushed, leaning on his shoulder and laughing foolishly, saying, Alex, you're so good to me. And now, she had probably forgotten him completely. Somewhere in the world, she was watching the northern lights, the glaciers, all the things he had promised to show her. But with someone else by her side, he laughed at himself, cursing, you pathetic bastard. If his 10-year younger self were here, he probably would have punched him. He threw back another glass. The alcohol burned his stomach, but it couldn't burn away the memories. Just then, he caught a glimpse of a familiar figure in his peripheral vision. Stella was cornered by a group of men, her face pale, her eyes frantic. Alex looked away, indifferent. It wasn't his problem. But then she saw him and rushed over, grabbing his arm. Help me. They won't leave me alone. The men looked him over, seemingly intimidated. Stella took the opportunity to raise her voice. My boyfriend is a lawyer. If you keep harassing me, he'll make you pay. The men, not wanting trouble, cursed and left. Alex coldly pulled his arm away, not bothering to correct her lie. Stella breathed a sigh of relief and smiled at him. Thanks. She didn't stay long, turning to leave. Her back swayed as she walked, the heels of her shoes clicking on the floor. The same crisp sound as always. Alex stared at the red soles, a wave of nausea washing over him. He sneered and went back to his drink. But a moment later, a bottle smashed on the table in front of him. An angry-looking man was glaring at him, the girl from the date standing behind him, her eyes red. They must have misunderstood his interaction with Stella. But Alex couldn't be bothered to explain. Let it end. The man's fist came flying at him. He didn't dodge. The pain was a kind of release. As his consciousness faded, he thought he saw Serena's face. Serena. I'm sorry. When he woke up, 5 days had passed. Alex stared at the ceiling and started to laugh, tears streaming down his face. He deserved it.